All right, everybody, welcome back to another one of the Entrepreneurial Skills Sessions. I'm happy to be back again with you guys. My name is Joe Lanzillotta. I am the Student Entrepreneurship Program Manager for Tangent, Trinity's Ideas Workspace. For many of you, you're back again. For a few of you, this might be the first time coming into one of these sessions. Essentially, the way it works, we're going through the Techstars Entrepreneurs Toolkit that you see on the screen. If you'd like the link to the toolkit itself, it's in the description of this video, or you can look at the URL just there for this specific one. What we've been doing is going through. The idea behind these sessions is that it is as much a learning experience for all of you as it is for me. I like to have conversations within the chat such that we can all get something out of this. So I have been through this particular session a number of times. It's one of my favorites. It's pitching and presenting. That is kind of my wheelhouse of expertise. That's where I love to work. So I'm super excited about this one. Today we're going to be mastering your pitch. So before we did a session on the elevator pitch, today we're doing master your pitch. So it goes through everything from start to finish for a 5-minute presentation. So by the end of this, you'll have some tips, tricks, and some guidelines for actually developing out your 5-minute pitch. So yeah, topic at the top, master your pitch. Your pitch is your moment to shine. How can you inform and entertain while still communicating and reinforcing the belief that you are a low-risk, high-return investment for this investor? You need to show that you know your audience, that your data supports your work, and that you are the right team for the job. So those are the key things. We're going to go through all of them in detail, and at the end I'm going to walk you guys through. There is a really good worksheet on the other side of this to kind of talk you through developing out your any sort of presentation, but specifically an investor pitch for an audience, so it kind of fits both. So without further ado, I am going to kick us off with the trailer.
I've spent almost 15 years listening to entrepreneurs pitch, and I can count the good ones on only one hand. Every word and sentence uttered out of your mouth needs to reinforce your low risk and high returns for this investor. When you know your audience intimately, when you turn that data about your audience into wisdom about the person listening to you, you drive a much, much more effective pitch.
Awesome. Clean, concise. The intro is much like we're going to aim for your pitch or your presentation to be. As I said, today we're going through a number of different short videos. The first one, entrepreneurs suck at pitching. Number 2, make your introduction interesting. Number 3, demonstrate what you sell. Number 4, show me the money. And number 5, stick the landing. And you will notice by the end of this session that each of those breaks down as one segment of your presentation. So you can almost look at each of those skills sessions as an individual part of your presentation to be worked on, but that'll also make a bit more sense when we go on to the workshops do the exercises at the end, as you see right here. But for now, we're scrolling down. We're going to watch the videos. As always, guys, I've mentioned it before. I will mention it again in this session. If you have questions, if you have comments, if you have ideas, I love to hear them. If you share them in the comments, I will comment back. I'll respond. Or it might just help others out to share your experience, share what you've been doing, or share what you would like to be doing. So the first part of the presentation, entrepreneurs suck at pitching. For all the effort entrepreneurs put into understanding their audience, solve their customer's problem, and build a compelling business, it seems almost impossible that they would make a terrible pitch. And yet it happens all the time to most entrepreneurs. The purpose of this video is to give you an overview of how to build and deliver an effective pitch so you can get a meeting with an investor. So this is the idea, is that you're presenting to get a meeting with an investor. That's the end game that you're looking to get out of this. What I will say is that the exercises at the end can help you tailor it to your audience, so you actually think about who your audience is. But here we go. Entrepreneurs suck at pitching.
So entrepreneurs suck at pitching. I know this because I've been listening to pitches for the last decade. I've listened to thousands of pitches, and I can count the good ones on one hand. My name is Nicole Claros. I'm the Chief Product Officer at Techstars, and I'm here to help you guys not suck at pitching. So the first thing we got to do is the first thing we got to do is know your audience. Know your audience. Who are you pitching to? Why is an investor pitch different than a sales pitch or different than an employee hire? What's different? What does an investor care about? What do I want to hear? What? Incentives, opportunity. I want to know how you're going to make me money. This is what I'm evaluating your entire pitch about. I want to know that I'm going to give you money and you're going to give me money back, right? You have to orient your whole pitch around that. But when you're talking to a customer, what do they care about? What problem are you going to solve for them? How are you going to save them money? How are you going to make them money? How are you going to save them time, right? Usually that's all they care about. You have to know your audience before going into any pitch, and you tweak your message around that. But you spend too much on the story, or you spend too much on the product, and you don't spend enough time convincing me that I'm going to lose out if I don't put money in your business. What's the goal of any pitch? What's the goal of your demo day pitch? To get a meeting. You guys have heard that before, that's great. To get the meeting. I'm not going to write you a check on the spot. I am not going to, like if you're a customer, I'm not going to sign up right on the spot. Your only goal is to get a meeting. So all you need to do is entertain me, impress me. I've got a checkbook in my pocket. You want me to get so excited that I come up to you afterwards and find you to ask for that meeting. You're only going to do that by impressing me and entertaining me. Get to the next meeting. All right, there are 4 sections to your pitch. The intro, the demo, the business stuff, and the landing. The size of the boxes here represent how long you should spend in each area in your pitch. So the intro is about a minute. About a minute. The demo is about 2 to 3 minutes. About. The business stuff is about a minute-ish, maybe a minute and a half. And the landing is 30-ish seconds.
Cool. So the reason I like this this workshop even more than most is it's very concise. It's very driven towards the outputs that you're going to have. If you're building a presentation, you need to know your audience. You need to impress and entertain them. And the ideal goal is to get a meeting at the other side. That can mean an investor meeting, as she said, or it can mean a customer meeting, a meeting with a customer who's going to sign on or buy your product, whatever it is you're selling. But that structured template that's there, don't worry, it does appear later on, and we do have it in the exercises, so you don't have to necessarily draw it out, and she will go through it in a bit more specificity as we go through. So part 2, making your introduction interesting. When pitching your business to investors in less than 30 seconds, you have to introduce yourself, build credibility, define the problem, and make the audience care. This video walks you through strategies to help you grab the attention and capture the heart and mind of the investor. Cool, jump in.
So we're going to go through each section one at a time. So the intro section. This is where you got to get my attention. This is where you have to capture my heart and my mind, right? You have to be more interesting than my cell phone. So any of you that know that sit next to me, my cell phone is constantly buzzing. It's emails coming through, it's Voxers coming through, it's Twitter notifying me of something, it's my husband reaching out to me. All of those things are really important to me, or I wouldn't have push notifications on my phone. Right? You have to be so interesting that I ignore the vibrating phone in my pocket. That is hard to do. And you've got around, at most 60 seconds, it's usually 30 seconds to get me there. In that intro section, this is where we want to identify that problem, the problem, the pain, the opportunity, and introduce yourself. So let's think back for a moment how I started. How did I start? I said, you suck at pitching, right? I do that a little bit on purpose. I want to get in your face a little bit because what it does usually is make everybody stop what it is they're doing and look at me. She just insulted me. I do it on purpose, okay? The second thing I said was, I've been listening to thousands of pitches for over a decade. I've established some sort of baseline credibility. So you know that I'm allowed to talk about this, right? I introduced myself. I said, I'm Nicole. I'm product officer at Techstars, right? And then I said why you guys should pay attention so you guys won't suck at pitching. It's a very extreme example, but for what it's worth, I did all that in about 20 seconds. You guys are taking minutes to do it. You got to get it under 60 seconds. Ideally under 30 if you can, because you've got my attention. Once you lose my attention, you're not going to get it back. So we're going to spend most of the time talking about that intro. All right, so you want to introduce yourself and your brand. You want to establish baseline credibility. You want to illuminate the problem. I did all those 3 things. And explain what you do and why I should care. Because you're going to make me a lot of money. That's why I care. There might be other reasons I care, like I might be attached to your problem in some way. That's a great hook, right? I might be mindful. I think that's a great hook. I might like to care about my putting together my family tree. Those are all great hooks. But at the end of the day, I want to know that you're going to make me money. So the goal is, please, be fucking interesting. I highlight this for a reason. Because I'm not kidding when I tell you that I've listened to thousands of pitches. I've listened to literally, it's probably like around 1,000 to 1,200 pitches a year. So if you multiply that out by a decade of doing this, that's a lot of pitches, right? You have to stand above them. You have to capture my attention. This isn't just about me, Nicole Glaros. This is about every investor that's in the room. Their job is to listen to pitches. And I guarantee you that they've heard your story before. Not your story, but they've heard your business before. So you got to figure out how to stand head and shoulders above everything else that they've heard. All right, some ideas on how to be interesting. Talk to me about a startling fact, an interesting personal story, contradict conventional wisdom, right? This is a question that you asked earlier. Make me laugh, plan a fear, be appropriately different. We're gonna watch some videos of some entrepreneurs that I think that did this really well. So Keen.io, they went through the Techstars class, our first cloud program in San Antonio in 2012. They have a highly technical product, highly technical. And every time they tried to tell anybody about it, whether mentors and investors, everybody just got this glassy look on their face because nobody got it. You have to be an engineer to understand what they do. And nobody was interested, so mentors weren't interested in working with them, investors weren't interested in talking to them. They were just falling down flat in terms of their Techstars experience, but also in terms of trying to attract any sort of investor attention. Until they learned how to, they explain their product through telling a story.
Hey everyone, great to be here. I'm Ryan, one of the co-founders of Keen. And at Keen, we are reinventing analytics for mobile applications. And to help me explain how, I'm going to tell you a little story. This is Tycho Brahe, a 16th century astronomer. He's famous for collecting an astounding amount of astronomical data. Every night, he would write down the position and the brightness of every star and every planet in the sky. And after 30 years of doing this, he died. Luckily, he had an assistant named Johannes Kepler. Kepler took Brahe's data, applied his own genius, and single-handedly came up with the laws of planetary motion that we still use to this day. Because Brahe dedicated his entire life to gathering all that data, Johannes Kepler is now cemented in history as a genius. And that's exactly what we do. Every mobile application is its own universe, full of data being generated by millions of users. And we can record that data in meticulous detail, just like Brahe. Only instead of stars and planets and their positions, our technology records every touch, every swipe, every purchase, and every share. We can record every interaction within an application and store it in our data warehouse in the cloud. And our customers use this data to discover new patterns of how their users are using their application. Our technology unleashes their genius. We turn our customers into Johannes Keplers.
Okay, what did you like? Who learned something? Right? You guys forgot that story from middle school or whatever, right? Who gets what they do? You think you got it, right? Pretty sure you got it, right? What about his stage presence? What do you think? Good or bad? If you think it's good, raise your hand. If you think it's bad, raise your hand. A little bit more on the bad side. Did he sound a little bit like a robot? No? Sounded really well rehearsed, maybe? You know what happens if a guy like that forgets his next line? He stands there and goes, right? So they had that memorized really well. But it's also really bad because if you forget your next line, you don't know how to like roll your way through it. Who thought it was too long? Only a couple people, right? That was 2 minutes. Did that feel like 2 minutes? No, because he captured your attention the whole time. Whose mind wandered? Be honest, it's okay. Only one. Powerful for a 2-minute story on something that you probably heard as a child, right? So what they did was use a metaphor to talk about their product in a way that now I got it. I got it. And what else is buried in the story? Let me put on my investor brain for a second, my investor hat. What else is buried in the story is, well, every company's going to have a mobile app. The market opportunity here is huge, right? Is buried in that story. It's the thing that's processing in the back of my mind. Wow, this is big. So I would actually say my one criticism here is I would actually say it was a little too long. Like I did find myself going get to the point a little bit towards the end. So he could have shortened this, but I thought that the use of the story was really powerful. All right, let's do one more. So ScriptPad, this company went through Techstars Boulder in 2010, and he uses a technique that we call twist the knife.
I'm Liam Davis-Mead. I'm here with my co-founder Shane Taylor, and we're ScriptPad. ScriptPad transforms the iPad and iPhone into a digital prescription pad, enabling doctors to write prescriptions faster and safer than their current paper process. Why do this? Because this stuff kills people. This is an example of a completely illegible handwritten paper prescription. The pharmacist in this case dispensed the wrong heart medication because he couldn't read the doctor's handwriting. He mistook Iserdil for Plendil, and instead of controlling the patient's condition, the medication caused a massive and fatal heart attack. And this happens again and again and again. In fact, of the 1.7 billion handwritten prescriptions scrawled out each year on those familiar paper script pads, up to 40% contain some form of error, whether it's missed drug interactions, improper dosing, or just plain unreadable handwriting. Each year, 7,000 people die, and another 1.5 million are injured as a result of these errors, causing billions in avoidable hospitalization.
Let's be honest, who is terrified to ever get a prescription on a piece of paper again? He could have just said, we do digital prescriptions. But that wouldn't have made you feel anything, right? By showing you again and again and again how powerful and important of a problem this is, you walk out of there going, I have to invest in this company. My life is at stake. My children's life is at stake. And all of the prescriptions that are written out there and all of the doctors, I'm going to save lives if I help this company. And it's a huge problem and a huge opportunity, right? They made you feel it. You didn't just hear it, you felt it. And that's what's powerful about a delivery like that, right? So he could very easily just say, we're a digital prescription company. And it wouldn't have been nearly as exciting or nearly as impactful as if he didn't really twist the knife. Make sense? As you're thinking about your pitch, spend 75% of your time here in the first minute and a half. This is the most important part. If you don't get that part right, nothing else that you say in your pitch will matter because people will check out and tune out and you won't get them back. If you bury the fact that you have solved cancer in minute 4, nobody will come talk to you, right? Get that first minute right.
Cool. So I personally love the examples because I find that when you can see somebody putting this in action, it's really easy to see yourself mirroring that or doing something like that. The layout of the pitch, I love the intrigue, then credibility, and then why they should pay attention to you as an introduction is really powerful. But then there are different ways that you can spin off of that. It's really interesting, and I love the use of analogies is often really powerful, or metaphors. Linda, I see you put in the chat, this is similar to the sessions. It's similar to the course. Yeah, absolutely. That's the idea, is there's a lot of stuff that's out there that I'm able to give you in a taste sort of way through these sessions. Obviously in Tangent, we have a lot more courses and a lot more in-depth operations, so that's another reason that you'd come on for the course, but this is a way of giving a bit of a taster out to as many people as we can possibly reach, especially in these times where people are looking for things while they're at home. That's why we're here. So yeah, starting with the pitching presentations, this is one of my favorite ones. You may see I'm a bit more energized today, and that's why. So part 3, demonstrate what you sell. This is a game show, not tell. A game show, not tell. How might you show how you will make your customer's problem go away? In this part, you will see how to show your investor audience the strengths of your business, your vision, and most importantly, how they will make money. Again, she keeps coming back to the how they will make money in an investor pitch. That is the outcome you're looking to provide for your audience. So that's what you're aiming for with this. But a lot of the principles are going to apply regardless of whether it's an investor or just to try and get some interest in your business from potential customers. So we'll plow right ahead. Demonstrate what you sell.
All right, let's talk about the demo section. The big thing to walk away with the demo section is show me, don't tell me. I'm amazed at how many entrepreneurs want to stand up there and tell me, hey, we offer a, we do one button genealogy. I don't know what that means, right? Rather than say, we have got people in the background that will do research, and if you want to order your 4th generation of family, like all you got to do is press a button, and then these people do research, and like I'm using my imagination to come up with the thing that you actually sell. Rather than do that, just show me. Show me your product. For instance, we make an app that lets friends discover and attend live music shows. This is a company, Jukely, that went through the 2013 New York class. And at the time, I was walking around saying, if I invest in another, I will never invest in another social, local, mobile event discovery company. And interestingly, I invested in 2 since then. But I will never do that. And this is a social, local, mobile event discovery business. Ugh. Another app that lets friends discover, blah, I'm already bored. Okay? But then I saw it.
When you sign up with Jukely, you connect your music services and we learn what you like. You connect your social networks and we learn what your friends like. This gives us the ability to make highly personalized recommendations to your whole group. We analyze music taste data across the social graph, and we match you magically with different friends for each show, and even friends of your friends who might be good to go with. And then we make it very easy for you to ping that group so you can get the conversation started around the show. We call this band together. This right here is the critical component that gets people out to shows. And once the decision has been made, it's so easy to buy the tickets. Right in the app, in just a few taps, you can purchase your tickets and you'll be put on the list. It's that simple.
So it's not just about discovering music. It's a beautiful, well-designed, interactive app that actually will increase ticket sales, in theory, right? So let me ask you a question. What's their customer acquisition strategy? Anyone know? The what? Viral component, right. Did he ever say customer acquisition strategy? No. But you got it from watching the demo, right? Awesome. What's their business model? Selling tickets. Did he ever say this is our business model? Nope. He showed you in the demo, right? He will actually later in his pitch say those things, but what he's just done is hit you over the head multiple times with what's going on, and he really leverages his demo to do that. You guys can do that too. Use your demo to talk about all the strengths of your business, about how you were going to make me money. Use the demo to talk about how you are better than all your competitors. Don't say you're better than your competitors, show me. All right, so that was the second section, the demo section. You should spend 2-ish minutes there, 2 to 3 minutes, okay? Feel free to include in that section stuff about how you're gonna make money, stuff about how you're gonna grow. Don't talk about it there, just show me. And then you can talk about it later, yeah. Awesome, I love that question. So her question was, even though that doesn't exist, is that okay to put it in there? On demo day, what are you selling me? You're selling me your vision. You don't have to sell me what's going on today. I want you to sell me what this looks like in 5 years. I want you to sell me how you're going to make me money. And that isn't today, right? It's totally okay to put stuff in your pitch that doesn't exist yet. It isn't okay to act as if it did exist. So one of the things that's really powerful to say is like, if you're going to put a bunch of stuff in your deck that doesn't exist, make sure you put a slide at the end that says, here's where we are today, right? But that's where we're going. And then I buy it. You don't want to sell me something that's not true, but if you're doing that, if you're planning on doing that, if that's part of the vision of your business, it is absolutely okay to put it in the deck.
Cool. So the moral to the story, show, don't tell. That's what you're looking for. You want to show people what it is that you do. If you keep it simple and you can make it straightforward, that's what you're looking for. Aviva, I saw you like your use of analogies. Yeah, I love the analogies. It helps everybody understand a few things, and also obviously the examples of the actual startups doing their presentations always helps me to understand how I might do it. So yeah, for sure. Also, I put the link in there, guys. If anybody wants to look at the Tangent Education courses, you can have a look at them there. Otherwise, stay on for the taster sessions that I'm going to be doing now and across the next couple days. Weeks now still. So the next one, show me the money. It's imperative that you show the business side of your startup so that investors understand how much risk they would take on your business. This video will help you think through some of the information you need to provide so investors can feel more confident in your solution. Cool. So building confidence in how you're going to make somebody money.
All right, so let's talk about the business section. This is basically this is what I would like to call the risk section, right? How risky is this business? And all the stuff you're going to tell me next is going to help me determine my risk tolerance to invest in your business. All right, so first of all, how big is the market? What's your market size look like? So this is Isaac Saldana, the CEO, or one of the founders of SendGrid. And when SendGrid started, they had no idea how big their market size was because nobody had done what they were doing. So instead of using numbers that they thought weren't true, he talked about it in another way.
So how big is our market size? The companies you see here are email marketing companies, and they approximately send 100 million emails per day. Facebook alone dwarfs this market. They send over 500 million transactional emails per day. And there are many other companies sending transactional emails that don't have the resources Facebook has to deal with transactional email problems.
It's fucking huge. There are tens of thousands of companies sending hundreds of billions of trillions of email messages a day. If you could get a fraction of a penny for every one of those emails, you're going to be filthy rich. And you know what? They are. So are the investors. My point is, just because you don't know the market doesn't mean you can't talk about it in creative ways. But you need to communicate to me that it's a big opportunity. Right? Because look, if you're going to go after the underwater basket weaving market and there are like 3 people in the world, like you're not going to have a real business. Not a venture backable business anyway. Okay? So the business model. What's wrong with this slide? A lot of words. What else? No prices, right? You know, it's always funny. It's usually not people don't pick up on that right away. It's usually the second or third thing that people pick up on. This happens less and less, but we used to see a lot of pitches without business model. But remember, I want to make money from you. If I can't see a path to how you are going to make money, I am not interested in investing in you. That doesn't mean that your business model has to be cash, because you might have a social play, or you might have some other type of business model that isn't necessarily enterprise sales, which is what these guys are. But my point is, you have to talk to me about it. You have to convince me that I am going to make money from your business. And whether that's through comparison of companies that have been acquired in your space, to companies that or companies that have IPO'd, to revenue numbers of comparable companies, right? To just pricing model. You need to talk to me about how I am going to have an exit here at some point. All right, differentiation. So a common mistake I see is entrepreneurs want to talk about competition. You want to sit up there and you want to talk about JDate, or you want to talk about Ancestry. And there's nothing wrong with that, but at the end of the day, I don't care about JDate or Ancestry. What do I care about? Right, I care about how you're going to win. I care about why you're better than those guys. What's going to make you win in the market over them? That's a risk thing. Are you going up against Google? Holy shit. But if you show me all the ways that you're better, smarter, more powerful, whatever, I become way more interested. So this is another one with bad audio, but I think that that Dash did this well. So Dash is a company that also was in the New York 2013 program, and they have they basically make it a Fitbit for your car. So it's a little thing that plugs into the OBD2 port on your car, and it communicates with your phone, and it tells you how fast you're driving and things that are wrong with your car. It's like a Fitbit.
Now, we are unlike anything out there on the market today. We'll work on any make of car. We are hardware agnostic. You buy off-the-shelf hardware, you can pick it up for as low as $10 on Amazon or Sears. Our product is multi-platform, and we do all of this with no monthly fees.
So let me talk a little bit about what's going on here, because it's not readily obvious. So first of all, there's just some psychology that's happening in this slide, which is, look, he's got his big logo right here, and he does list his competitors, but they're little tiny small logos at the bottom with his big logo on top, okay? Just a little psychology. Yes, we're better, okay? The second thing that he does is he doesn't shit on his competition. He talks about how he's better. He doesn't say, look, OnStar sucks because they only work with one make of car. And Automatic is only one platform, and by the way, they charge monthly fees. He doesn't say any of that. He talks about how he's better and how he's different, not about how they are bad. Does that make sense? We all hate politics. We hate election season because all the politicians do is rip on their competition. They never talk about themselves, right? You hate that about that. Don't be like that either. Talk about how great you are and how you're going to win. What makes you win in the market? Team. So I love talking about this slide. This is one of my favorites in the whole deck. So this is Next Big Sound. They went through the Boulder class in 2009, and they just sold to Pandora 9 months ago, something like that. When they were going through the Techstars program, they were literally graduating college. So they were going to University of Chicago at Booth, and they were flying to Boulder. They would do like a week of the program. They would fly back and take an exam, and they would fly back to Boulder and do more of the program. And they would fly back and graduate and fly back. So these guys were very young, and only one of them had actually ever held a real job, and it was Alex White, the CEO, and he held a 3-month internship at a record label. So when it came time to talk about the team, they were like, what do we talk about? We don't have anything to show for, right? What's special? Like, we don't know what to talk about. So here's what they did, which is incredibly clever. That picture, so when they were raising money, they wanted to raise $250,000, and they knew that they wanted to raise from Foundry Group. It's a local VC. You guys all know them. This picture is the exact same team photo that Foundry Group had on their website of the 4 Foundry partners. The guys, the Next Big Sound, posed in the exact same poses. They're wearing the same outfits in the exact same alley here in Boulder to take that photo. So when they stood up on demo day to talk about their team, who do you think in the audience got the joke? Foundry, but only Foundry, right? Foundry is the only group or the only people that got that joke. What do you think that communicates to Foundry? You're special, okay? Like, I think that communicates, I'm coming after you. We want you, right? But here's a couple other things it communicates. It's clever, right? It's creative. And as an entrepreneur, you have to be clever and creative to make this work. There's no formula for being a successful entrepreneur. So you have to use creativity and ingenuity, which is that. If you can be that creative about a team slide in a freaking deck, imagine how creative you can be with other real problems that your business is going to face. A big element of the pitch that very few companies put in there is timeline. If you have this really cool opportunity in that most investors will erroneously think that your company started when Techstars started, which I know isn't true, but leverage that. So you can show me these, wow, look at what we've done in the past 3 months. The stuff that you did before, it matters, but look at how much traction we have. Look at what we've accomplished. Because here's the message. This is the extrapolation from this slide. right? In 87 days, we integrated with 6 services, tracked 500,000 artists, recorded 130 million fan interactions. If we did that in 87 days, imagine what we could do in a year. Imagine what we could do in 3 years. We'll dominate the world. That's the extrapolation that I'm making. As an investor, I want to invest in teams that can execute. Prove to me that you have been able to execute. So traction, the same thing. Show me traction. This is just de-risking the investment for me, right? If you've got customers signed up, if you've got deals signed, if you've got revenue, this is de-risking it for me. I know these guys know how to sell. I know these guys know how to get out there. I know these guys know how to perform.
Awesome. So this is like one of my favorite of all of the videos that we're going to show. That is one of my favorites. We do have the one more, number 5, on sticking the landing, but that is probably my top one. One, because it has the team slide that I just think is so clever. The idea of mirroring the investors that you really want to talk to. But also 2 more things. Number 1, the idea of not like shitting on your competition is brilliant, because I see it all the time. Everybody sees it all the time, where it's like, these are our competitors and here's why they're bad. But if you can turn it and be hyper positive, hyper optimistic, like, here's why we're great, everybody feels great at the end of that presentation. And then the last one is the timeline. This is something that we talk about a lot. Like, I talk about a lot in Tangent when I'm working with students who are on the sprints or in Launchbox or even in any of our courses. When you're developing your ideas, if you're talking to somebody at the other end of a program, oftentimes it's assumed intuitively that what you're doing began with that program. So when you get to the end of that program, leveraging, saying, hey, I've been developing this for this amount of time in this program, everybody intuitively says, wow, you've done so much in a short amount of time. And that mental gap, obviously, it's a good way of framing how quickly you can work when you dedicate your time to something. And that's a really good way of doing a timeline in a presentation, where you map your future based on what you've done in a segmented amount of time. So if we did this in just 87 days, imagine what we can do in 1 to 5 years. So it's just a really cool presentation. We'll go through number 5, stick the landing, and then we'll go through a bit of the workshop. And then we'll wrap up for the day. For anybody who doesn't know, if you're in here for the first time today, at the end of every session, somebody wins a free pizza. So well worth sticking around. If you're not enjoying the content, there's some other motivation. But hopefully you're enjoying what we're doing. So the last part, stick the landing. You need to leave a great lasting impression. Leave your audience with a specific call to action. How might you leave investors feeling like you are confident? In this video, you will learn the importance of communicating the key strengths of you and your business so that you walk off stage leaving the best impression possible, or best possible impression. That's what you're looking for when you leave the stage. Leave a really good impression. And here's how.
The last section is the landing. And the big thing about the landing is just lasting impressions, right? I see a lot of entrepreneurs, and because you don't like to be on stage, you want to get off. And you're like, and I'm Nicole, and thank you very much. Walk off stage, right? What does that communicate to me? What does that communicate? Lack of confidence. And what's the extrapolation of the lack of confidence? Maybe. But I think, like, if you can't own a simple pitch, how are you ever going to be able to sell? How are you ever going to be able to hire the right people? How are you ever going to be able to lead your company? If you're awkward doing something like this, you're going to be awkward in your business. And it's not fair because it's not true, but that's the like subconscious thing that happens in people's brains, right? Wow, when they stand up there and they exude confidence, they must be really awesome CEOs. Not necessarily. My point is, you can practice this part. This is practicable and fakeable. So beat me over the head with your key points. What are the main strengths of the business? Tell me those things again. Make sure you stick the landing. I'm Nicole. I just taught you guys how to pitch. I'm happy to take any questions. Nail the landing. It's really easy. You just have to practice it. Make sure you're making a call to action. Anytime you ever stand up in front of a group of people, ever, you should be making a call to action, even in front of your own peers, even in this room. The day you guys decided to become entrepreneurs is the day you decided to become salespeople. right? You always need something. Always. You need introductions to engineers. You're looking for a VP of engineering. You need somebody that's really good at UX. You need investors. You need help with something, whatever it is. Always make a call. Always make an ask. Always have a call to action. If you're interested in learning more about my business, come find me afterwards. I would love to answer your questions. Whatever the call to action, doesn't matter, right? Just make one. So some final thoughts. Delivery is everything. I will take C content in a pitch any day with an A delivery rather than A content and C delivery. You guys have probably experienced this yourselves. You're sitting there and you're listening to a speaker and you're like, wow, the content's kind of good, but I just couldn't pay attention because they Buellered me to death, right? And this is just practice. You got to learn how to work with the speed of your voice, because sometimes it's really powerful if you talk really fast because you're showing excitement. And I'm really excited to tell you guys about this thing that I'm working on. And other times it's really powerful to slow down, to make an emphasis on a point that you want to make. Know when to use your arms. Know when to not use your arms. Know how powerful silence is. Because you know what happens when you're on stage and you're silent for that long? The people that are checking their phone, guess what they do? What's going on? They look up. So if you need a reset, or if you need to make a really important point, silence can be extremely powerful. If you think you suck at this part, if you think you suck at delivery, here's a tip. Here's a little suggestion. Go stand on Pearl Street, spend a day, dedicate a day, because it's going to take you a day, and deliver your pitch. Stand on a wall, right, and deliver your pitch and your goal is to get 5 people to listen to your pitch all the way through from start to end. And what you're going to find you have to do, because nobody really on Pearl Street cares about your business, which is good, is you're going to have to get a little crazy. You're going to have to go, hey, stop, hey, you, come here. I want to tell you about ancestors. You want to know about your ancestors, don't you? You're going to have to turn into a crazy person. But that's okay, because when you can feel comfortable, when you lose your sense of self-consciousness and you embrace the moment, then you'll be much more comfortable on stage. Right? I know you guys aren't doing this, so I'm not going to harp on this one, but seriously, fuck bullet points. So no bullet points in your decks, because I can listen or I can read. I cannot do both. So somebody had earlier said there are too many words on the slide. It was the pricing slide. Totally true, right? But what happens is when there are words on the slide, you're reading. And as we've seen, it's way more powerful when there was nothing on the slide and you were listening, right? When there was nothing behind you. This is true for every talk you ever give, ever. Same is true about complex charts and graphs, okay? I can either comprehend what I'm reading on the screen or I can listen to you. I cannot do both, because this sucks. I saw this. I did. I had to track down the entrepreneur and ask for the slide. He was like, why do you want it? I was like, no reason. Right? What the fuck does that mean? Why would you ever put that in a deck? Why? This is awesome. What's the X and Y axis? Like, it's a fake chart. You use charts and graphs to convey information, right? Make sure you're doing so in a split second. By the way, you would never use this chart in a partner meeting. Why? So being on stage is a different atmosphere than being in front of people one-on-one. You can put a somewhat complex chart in front of people when it's one-on-one, because you can walk them through what's going on. But when you're trying to maintain the attention of everybody in the room, you're desperately trying to keep them off their phones. This is great. This, they'll go right to their phone. As soon as they see that, they'll like check their phone. Okay. Because people will listen or read, they will not do both. Okay. So generic language is deadly. Just let me talk about some examples. So our sales intelligence tool helps customers close more deals. What do they do? What's the product? Maybe. Could be a phone book, right? It could be a room full of people dialing for like information. We have no idea what they do. They use words, but the words are generic. Does that make sense? I think I have another example in here, right? We help companies collaborate on social media content. What do they do? Entrepreneurs like to fall into the trap of telling me who they are. Or when they tell me what they do, okay, that is sort of what you do, but I don't want to know what you do. I want to know how you do what you do. So staying away from generic language, a great way to think about it is tell me how you do what you do, and that will keep you out of generic language zone. So practice in public and practice like you play. If you guys remember, I open like that. So let me just do a quick neuroscience lesson, right? When you learn something in your brain makes new synapses. Does everybody know this? You remember this from like high school or whatever? Your brain makes new synapses, and the more you practice something, the stronger those synapse connections get, right? Okay, so when you stand up on stage at pitch practice, and you're like, hey, sorry, I didn't make a lot of changes from last week, and I was up late last night, but just bear with me, and yeah, so I'm Nicole, and I'm here to talk about how to pitch. And when you practice mediocrity, you literally get better at being mediocre. Literally, it happens in your brain. This is like neuroscience. Practice being awesome. Every time you get up there, practice like your company is at stake. Because then when your company is at stake, it will be really natural for you and really easy, right? Make every pitch count. And if you got to get yourself into the zone when you do it, then do it. Go into one of the meditation rooms or whatever, do your breathing exercises, whatever you have to do, and come up, and even if there's only one person in the room, own it. Like your business is at stake, because you're strengthening those neural connections in your brain. Practice your answers. Make sure your co-founders are writing down the top 5 questions that you get. Make sure you come up with solid, succinct answers to all of those 5 questions, and make sure everybody in the team knows them and can say them powerfully. Because how are you going to make money? Well, we're sort of thinking about maybe doing a freemium model thing, and we might do some, I don't know, we're thinking about a couple different options. That sucks. That communicates to me you haven't thought about your business and a really important part of your business. But when I ask you how you can make money and you say 3 ways, boom, 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 I'm like, oh, awesome, got it. Powerful. That was that softball thing that I mentioned earlier. So if you've got a strength of your business, don't feel like you need to put everything in the deck. Leave some stuff out, especially the obvious stuff. Because when I come and ask you how you're going to grow, and you're like, easy, I'm really glad you asked, and you knock it out of the park, I'm like, wow, they really know their business. Do not lie or bullshit me ever. I cannot tell you how often I get lied to or bullshitted. And it sucks because you know what? My immediate reaction is, I'm done. I don't want to talk to the person anymore. I don't want to work with somebody that is going to bullshit me. And it's when that's my first or second or even third interaction with somebody, I'm like, yeah. Because when it gets hard, when stuff's not going well in the business, I don't trust you. I won't ever trust you to come to me because you don't want to talk to me about the hard stuff, right? The second best answer to knowing it is what? I don't know, but why is it good? It's honest, but there's a second reason. You can help. It gives you a reason to follow up, right? That is a great question, and I'm embarrassed I don't know the answer to it. Can I get your card and follow up with you? Let me go do some research, and I'll follow up with you and give you the answer. And then actually follow up, because that's the whole point of Demo Day anyway, right? Is to get the meeting. So if you can follow up with somebody, that's awesome. You just got a business card. Woohoo! It's your opportunity to build a relationship with people. I used to tell people I don't know just to tell them I don't know so I could get their business cards. It's really powerful. All right, I just want to emphasize there are 3 phases to fundraising. One is the who, figuring out who you're going to go after. The second one is the actual pitch, and the third one is the close. We only talked about the second thing here. So make sure that you're working equally hard on identifying the right investors and then how to close. Because if you don't have those parts right, you can have the perfect pitch, but you're still not going to raise any money.
Awesome. So guys, I saw the chat very active there. I'm just gonna say a few things. So Aviva, yeah, happy to have a mentorship session with you. It's 1-to-1. I do 30 minutes. I can sit down with you and help out however you want. If you have an idea or you want to work on something, come have a chat. Linda and Insaya, I agree completely. That's why this is one of my favorite sessions. Nicole, she is amazing in Techstars, and this is one of my favorite sessions. If you want more from her, go into the toolkit and look at the elevator pitch. She does a really good job of breaking down the elevator pitch, and there are some cool exercises after that as well, if you haven't already seen it. So yeah, guys, that's kind of the wrap up of the actual content. We are going to go into the worksheet. And yeah, also wanted to say, yeah, Colin, glad your group is getting more well prepared for their pitch off the back of these sessions. That's what we're here for, trying to support everything that we do with a little bit of content online when you need it. So yeah, with Master Your Pitch in these sessions, this is kind of the work through of, and as I said, the link is in the top of the description. You can go to that yourself and go through this actual exercise yourself, but it starts with some general questions to try and get you in the context of building your pitch. You look at who your audience is, what is the action that you want them to take. So you start with, what is your ask? Because at the end of your pitch, often it's an afterthought. Oh yeah, and what are we asking for? You think about it as, I have to do a pitch because I have to do a pitch. You're always, the reason it's called a pitch is because you're pitching something, you have an ask at the other end of it. So think about that up front and use that all the way throughout. And then how will you measure if audience members take that action? So if it's audience members taking an action of signing up to your app, how many app signups did you get within that amount of time? Something like that. Or it can even be how many people started to have a conversation with you right afterwards. Then audience bias. What is the strongest criticism of your business? What are the most optimistic points of the work you're doing? So you're looking at kind of either end of the best feedback you can possibly get and the worst feedback you can possibly get, and building from that. And then we keep going down. This is the next kind of part of the exercise. So if you put yourself in the shoes of someone watching your pitch and you were to answer these questions, that's the part of this exercise where you're kind of taking yourself out of the position of, I'm somebody who is going to be giving this pitch, and instead, what if I was somebody watching a pitch being done on the stage? What do you want to see from the person on stage? What do you want to hear from the person presenting? What do you want to feel? And what's going to get you excited and keep your attention? If you answer those questions for yourself, that's awesome. And then you can use that as a way of crafting your pitch to fit those feelings, what they're going to hear, what they're going to see, and keeping them excited. And there's some cool ways. I think it's the next section after this as to how to get started with it. You start with this is the base of your business. Who is your customer? What is your customer's problem? What is my product and service? And how does my product and service solve this problem? There are a few other exercises we've done in some of the previous sessions that would build you up to have this ready to go. If you input that there, you can then go, how might you grab and keep the attention of the audience with something they would expect? So just for context, this is kind of starting the intro of it. How can you grab and keep their attention with something they wouldn't expect? Oh, I'm getting a little pop-up. How might you make your introduction personal to your audience? So if you know your audience really well, you can personalize what it is that you're asking for, or what it is that you're introducing. How might you visualize the customer, their problem, and your solution for this audience? This is very much the show, don't tell. How can you show us how it's going to work versus telling us how it's going to work? Or if you are telling us, making sure that you have something right on the side of it of showing us everything you say. And then how might you use language, sounds, and visuals to engage the senses of the audience? Again, everybody wants to be stimulated in many ways throughout a presentation. If it's auditory, if there's music, if it's visual, if there's slides, if there's videos, or if it's just you speaking. There are many ways that you can do this, and this is just trying to exercise your creativity to bring you through that process. Then, once you've done that, this is kind of the layout of the presentation. So the intro, in a 5-minute presentation, but what I would say is this can scale up. So if you have a longer presentation, just take these percentages of time and just put that into the bigger presentation. But obviously the bulk of your presentation is going to be the demonstration. We often end up with a bias when we're doing these presentations wherein you know how it works, so you assume everybody's just going to get it right away. But the reality is it often takes the most time for somebody to understand how your business works. It's different for each one, but often that is the challenge. So generally speaking, you want to spend the most time demonstrating the story of how your business works. So tell us the story of the person before your solution comes into play and the story of the person once you have given them that solution. I hope that makes sense. We'll keep moving forward. When you go into the introduction, you start out with circling one of these. These are kind of prompts to help you start out. So circle one and then give an example of that item in the space below. So when you're starting, you can start out with a startling fact, an interesting personal story, some humor, make a joke, a contradiction to conventional wisdom, or some fear, right? So for example, the guys who were doing the medical notes to the prescriptions, right? They started with fear. This many people end up dying because people scribble on pads and nobody can read it, right? Whereas you can start with humor, you can start with a joke, you can start with almost anything. If anybody is interested in humor and how to start with a joke, I would recommend you go and search on YouTube. It's called Big Willie G. He does a pitch, just Big Willie G pitch. He does a presentation on Party on Demand. It is a hilarious presentation, and I would recommend you look at it if you want to start funny. But there are a million different ways. This is just an exercise to get you started out. Then the demo, write your answers to these questions in the space below, and it takes you through a few questions. The key one, how might you show how you will make that problem go away? So what is the problem? And show us how you make that problem go away. That's the story that you want to show. Then when you get to the business section, there are a number of questions that you can try to look at. The key one I think is the how big is your market size? You're trying to tell us, like the guys who said there are this many emails sent every single day. How big is the opportunity here? Specifically, if you're looking for investment, investors want to know that there's a big market. If there isn't a big market, you might not be suited to investment, but then some of the other questions might help you as you go through. And then finally, you stick the landing with your call to action. So what is your call to action? Now that you've just used up 5 minutes of this audience's time and attention, what is it that you want them to do? How are you going to leave the audience with a great lasting impression? And this last thing you say is what is most likely to get you that follow-up meeting. Because as we said, it's a meeting after, whether it's a customer, whether it's investor, you're trying to have a further conversation and leave them with something that makes them want to come back and talk to you again. So what is that last statement you're going to make that is the call to action? So the last thing is just some reviewing of your presentations. And this is something I've done before where I've recorded myself presenting or I've had other people give feedback on presenting. This is the visual aid review if you're looking at your presentation, trying to see how you can make it more concise or how you can pare down the presentation. And then this is another good exercise. It's a bit scary of an exercise, but it is good. It's the pitch practice scorecard. So what you do is you give this scorecard. You can print it out here. You go to save your work and it'll come up as a PDF. You give this scorecard to a couple of friends, family, whoever you want to judge your presentation, because often when you're giving people to judge your presentation, they don't know how to give feedback. This is a really good way to get them to answer a few questions in a way that is going to force them to critique you. So who is the customer for this product or service and what problem do they face? If at the end of your presentation, the person you've given the scorecard to cannot answer that question effectively, you have not effectively communicated who the product and service is for, and you might look at your demo section on how to make that better. There are a lot of them. There are a lot of prompts here that they can go through about visual aids, about your speaking dynamics. Was the presenter's volume sufficient? Could you hear them when they were presenting? That's another thing to think about. And then further feedback. But there's an interesting way of addressing this afterwards is you look at the perception gap. Now, this is where I said I've recorded myself before. So what you'll do is before you read the scorecards, watch your recorded presentation and fill out the scorecard yourself. So you fill out this scorecard and answer the questions as though you were an audience member watching your presentation. And then you read the comments of the people who also watched your presentation. And that's where you can see your perceptual bias of your presentation. So if you're saying, I understand very well what the problem is and who my customer is, and then everybody else says no, you know that you have a perceptual bias to say this is a really simple solution when it's not, and it may be an indication to expand that section of your presentation and contract others where you had all yes answers, like it all made sense to them. It's a really good exercise for building a pitch, but once you've built a pitch, this is even better for making it that extra little bit better. Because once you build it, it's really hard to you've formed this perfect thing, it's really hard to break that and change it. This will give you specific areas within your presentation that you can break and change and make better, because every presentation is going to improve upon itself. That's kind of the end of it, but like what you'll look at after that is the number of questions that you get. So you look at giving your pitch, what are the questions that people give you the most frequently, and you can give your perfect answers. So there are obviously questions that come up almost every time. What you want to do is give them the right answer every time. So you're going to write these down and make sure that everybody in your organization knows the answer to your top 5 questions.